this next thing that I'm going to share with you, I think is really, really powerful. So you want to be aware that whenever you do something, that there is a process. And this is important because a lot of the time what happens is that we focus on the end result and we miss out on the process that we use to get there. And it's really 99% or more of life is about the process. It's not about the end result. So the more focused you are on the end result, the more you're missing out on, which means you're missing out on where you have power. So if you're only focused on, you catch yourself doing the action that you don't want to do, or usually after the fact, and then you say, "Oh, I can't believe I did it again." You could just berate yourself and say, "I'm gonna, I'm so terrible, and I hope I've really learned my lesson this time, and boy, I'm hope I'm going to do it differently in the future." No, you won't. You won't do it differently because you don't have any greater awareness about how you got there. If you don't know about the process, then what will happen is you will still not have awareness until after the fact. You need to have more awareness about what the process is that leads you to that end result, because the process starts long before the end result. So this is true of everything in life. Everything, every action that we take starts with a process inwardly. So think about it. Anything that you want to do, if it's tying your shoes, you don't just tie your shoes. Most of us are unaware, so we think we just tie our shoes, but it's not true. You can't just tie your shoes. There's an inner process that starts that leads to the outer action. So the outer action, in many cases, is also a process. So if you wanted to tie your shoes, first of all, I mean, you wouldn't have to put them on, but presumably you'd want to put them on before you tied them. Okay. And if you don't already have your shoes on, then and you're not near to the shoes, you would probably need to get the shoes. So you'd probably need to move from where you are to where the shoes are, and then put the shoes on and then tie them. So before you actually tie your shoes, there's a whole process that has to happen externally. You have to move yourself to where the shoes are. You have to get them, put them on your feet, and then tie them. But before that outer process occurs, there's an inner process that happens. So first of all, you would have to imagine your shoes, and you'd have to imagine putting them on. You'd have to imagine tying them, because otherwise you wouldn't know how to do it. You wouldn't know to do it at all. You have to imagine it first. Most people are not aware of this, but it's true. Just check it out. You imagine everything you do before you do it. And before you're going to imagine doing it, there's some prompt that signals you to begin that process of imagining. There has to be, right? I mean, there has to be a beginning to it. There's a moment before which you're not thinking of tying your shoes, and then something happens, and then you start imagining tying your shoes, and then you get up and you go get your shoes, you put them on, and you tie them. So if you want to change something, you want to become aware of that whole process, and ideally as early on as possible. So here's something really interesting. If you can intervene at the earliest point, it gives you the maximum leverage to make the change. So what is it that signals you to begin that inner process that leads to the outer activity? So think about some behavior you would like to change. And then just notice that you're not doing that behavior every single moment of the day, right? There are specific times when you do it. Now, how do you know to do that activity then? And for the overwhelming majority of people, you actually see something. You have an image that you use to cue that activity. And if it's an unwanted activity, then I can guarantee you that the image that you use is one that is not particularly resourceful, meaning that it's an image that that produces a sense of powerlessness. It creates a bad feeling in you. It creates a feeling that you have no power, you have no choice, and you are therefore compelled to do this action. Now, for some people, there will also be, or for a small subset of people, it will be primarily some kind of inner sound, usually some kind of voice that one hears. So sometimes there'll be just like an inner dialogue, that might be a voice that says something to you, that signals doing that behavior. And again, it's usually not very resourceful, right? It's usually something that says, like, you're stupid, you're no good, you have to, you're a loser, you might as well give in, something like that. This is if it's a behavior that you consciously don't want to do. So consciously, you don't want to do the thing, but unconsciously, you have a habit of particular cues that you've relied upon to initiate that inner process that leads to the outer activity. So if you change that, you change the cue, then you set off a different trajectory. So now think about this. So imagine what it is that you want instead. And if you're not clear about what you want instead, just think about something. So yeah, if your voice tells you how much you're going to enjoy doing the thing, but consciously you know that's not true. So there's a mismatch there. So there's something about that that's disempowering for you. So just pay attention and notice what it is. There's something about it that's disempowering. Now, whatever the voice or the sound or the image is somehow disempowering for you. So that's not your ideal state. That's not how you actually want to experience yourself. So now think about when you think about what you want instead, or think about anything that you would like instead. Think about something where you feel empowered, where you feel good, where you feel fantastic, where you feel that you are uh, powerful and achieving the things that are meaningful to you. And imagine seeing yourself in that state. And notice how resourceful you are in that state. So I don't know exactly what inner resources you're connecting to in that state, but probably things like empowerment, happiness, joy, peace, calm, fulfillment, enthusiasm, love, things like that, right? So this would be your ideal image of yourself. This is who you want to be. This is who you are when you are achieving what you want. So now, how would it be if every time, if every time that you used to cue yourself with that old image or sound, what if instead you replaced it with this new image of yourself? What if you replaced it with this image of yourself as resourceful, accessing all of what it is that you really want to be, who you know that you can be? So just try that out. So you know the situations that normally would lead you to begin that inner process that leads to the unwanted behavior. And just notice now that you could just substitute this new image of yourself, this ideal image of yourself, accessing all of those inner resources that allow you to be successful, that allow you to achieve what you really want in life. Notice how that changes things.